Picture the moment someone attacks your character. Their words are sharp, designed to provoke, designed to pull you into a battlefield where their anger is the weapon and your reaction is the prize. Most people instinctively take the bait. They try to explain what cannot be explained to someone unwilling to listen. But you, if you dare, can choose differently. You can remain still. You can let the storm crash against the immovable mountain of your silence. And in that moment, something ancient and almost mystical occurs. The silence shifts the power. The one who expected your energy now stands exposed in their own emptiness. Silence has a weight. It presses on others in ways words never can. It draws out their hidden motives, their insecurities, their fears. When you refuse to react, the unspoken dynamics in the room rise to the surface like oil separating from water. The person who needed you to play along suddenly sees themselves more clearly, though they may not admit it. This is why Jung insisted that silence is not the absence of communication, but the most honest form of it. The ego thrives on defense, on reaction, on the illusion of control through explanation. When you withhold that fuel, the mask slips. Your restraint holds up a mirror. They may rage at the reflection, but it is theirs alone to face. You may feel it in your body, the trembling urge to respond. The heart races, the chest tightens, the mind begins to compose arguments, excuses, explanations. This is the body's rebellion against silence, because silence threatens the ego's fragile shell. But if you can endure that inner storm, if you can resist the compulsion to break the quiet, something extraordinary happens. The self, the deeper center beyond ego, begins to stir. You glimpse the truth that you are not defined by every insult, every misunderstanding, every demand for explanation. You realize that your essence is untouchable, hidden behind the veil of stillness. Yet do not be deceived. Your silence will not always be welcomed. Those around you may brand you cold, distant, arrogant. To them, silence feels like rejection. But in truth, it is an act of liberation. It frees you from the endless loop of justifying your existence to others. It frees them, too, if they are brave enough to look inward instead of demanding your reaction. To choose silence is not to retreat into nothingness. It is to root yourself in being. It is to recognize that the one who does not react often carries the greatest authority in the room. The one who does not explain holds the deepest secrets. The one who disappears from the battlefield remains undefeated. And so the weight of silence is the beginning of your power. In the next part, you will step further into this path and discover the quiet exit, the art of vanishing without sound, leaving only the echo of your absence. Now imagine a different scene, a room filled with laughter, noise, and conversation. You are there, present, playing your role. Then, without warning, you rise. You do not announce your departure. You do not offer explanations or excuses. You do not look for permission. You simply leave. Hours later, someone realizes you are gone, and only then do they grasp the subtle gravity you had carried. This is the quiet exit. This is disappearing without drama. There is a secret potency in leaving without spectacle. We are conditioned to make noise when we depart. We say goodbye, explain our reasons, soften the blow of absence with words meant to manage the emotions of others. But the quiet exit resists all that conditioning. It honors a deeper loyalty, not to the expectations of the crowd, but to the call of the self. When you vanish silently, you step out of the performance of being endlessly available, endlessly explainable. You dissolve into the mystery of your own becoming. Jung understood this deeply. Individuation, he said, is the path of shedding the false skins of expectation. To individuate is to let go of the characters you were forced to play, the masks you once wore to belong. The quiet exit is a small but radical rehearsal of that individuation. Each time you leave without noise, you peel away another layer of false duty. You reclaim the right to exist without justification. The loner, Jung wrote, is not the one who chooses isolation, but the one who can no longer bear the falsity of others. Your disappearance is not an act of cruelty. It is not a punishment. It is the natural consequence of refusing falsity. It is the silent declaration that your presence cannot be demanded, only invited. Reflect for a moment. How many times have you lingered in places where your presence was drained but never valued? How many times have you stretched yourself thin to explain why you needed rest, why you needed space, why you could not always be the dependable mask others wished for? The quiet exit cuts through this endless negotiation. It requires no permission, no performance. It is your sovereign right to walk away. Of course, some will not understand. Your silent departure may stir resentment. People will accuse you of abandonment. They will brand you unreliable. But these accusations are projections, not truths. They are the cries of those who depended too much on your availability. They are the shadows of their own fear of emptiness. To them, your absence feels like betrayal, but in reality, it is an invitation for them to confront the ways they have relied on you to avoid facing themselves. The quiet exit changes social dynamics more than any speech ever could. It unsettles those who cling to control, because your absence is proof that they never held you in chains. It liberates you from the exhausting need to explain, and in time, it liberates them from the illusion that they were owed an explanation. Silence carries weight. Disappearance carries meaning. The two together form a language more ancient than words, a language of presence and absence, of mystery and power. In the next part, you will discover the shield of the unsaid, how refusing to explain dismantles the invisible chains that others try to fasten around your spirit. And if you feel something awakening already, remember, this journey has only just begun, and each silence you claim is another step toward your true self. Think of the last time someone demanded an explanation from you. Their tone may have been sharp, or perhaps it was disguised in sweetness, but beneath it was the same desire, control. When someone insists that you explain yourself, they are often less interested in your truth than in keeping their story intact. They want your words to confirm the role they've already cast you in. And here is where your silence becomes a shield. To refuse to explain is not to retreat. It is to stand your ground without giving your energy away. Words once spoken can be twisted, misheard, weaponized. Silence, however, cannot be manipulated. It denies the other person the hooks they need to pull you back into their web. It forces them to sit with their own assumptions, their own projections, their own discomfort. Jung knew this well. He taught that projections are the unconscious contents we throw onto others when we cannot bear to face them within ourselves. When you withhold explanation, you do not absorb their projection, you return it. Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. To refuse to explain is to hand irritation back to its true owner. They will squirm, they will press, they will demand. But every word you withhold is a mirror they cannot avoid. The silence is not cruelty, it is a fierce compassion because it returns to them the chance to confront what is truly theirs. This practice, however, is not easy. You will feel the pull to defend yourself. You will feel the ache of being misunderstood. The ego thrives on recognition, on the illusion that it can explain itself into acceptance. But Jung reminded us that individuation, The path to becoming whole requires the death of false images. Your refusal to explain is a small death of the ego. It hurts, but it liberates. Try this. The next time you feel the demand for explanation, rise, pause. Take a single slow breath before speaking. Ask yourself, am I about to speak from fear or from truth? If the answer is fear, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of conflict, choose silence. Let the moment stretch. Let the tension linger. If words must come, let them be minimal, stripped of defense. Notice what happens in the silence that follows. You may feel your body itch with the urge to fill the space, but resist it. Afterward, write down what surfaced in you. What fears did you face? What power did you reclaim by refusing to explain? When you begin this practice, you will likely face resistance from others. People may accuse you of being distant, uncooperative, evasive. But remember, what they call evasive is often just unmanageable. And what they call distant is simply unowned projection. In truth, you are no longer allowing yourself to be cast in their play. To hold the shield of the unsaid is to stand sovereign. It is to recognize that your truth cannot be diminished by misunderstanding. It is to accept that silence often reveals more than any explanation could. And so you begin to glimpse the true power of disappearance, not the physical leaving of a room, but the refusal to play a role in someone else's narrative. In the next part, we will descend even deeper into the realm of the shadow, where withdrawal is not only silence, but transformation. Imagine a figure walking into the twilight, their outline dissolving into dusk. You see them one moment, and in the next they are gone, absorbed by the gathering dark. This is the image of shadow withdrawal, the act of disappearing not just from a conversation or a room, but from the roles that once defined you. Withdrawal unsettles because it mirrors death. Every time you step back from a conflict, every time you vanish instead of react, something old dies. For the world around you, it may be the death of the reliable persona you once played. For you, it is the death of yet another mask. Jung spoke often of the shadow, the hidden, repressed parts of ourselves that wait in silence for acknowledgement. To withdraw into silence is to descend into that shadow. It is to meet what you have buried beneath the noise of explanations and the chatter of reactions. The shadow, Jung wrote, is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. Disappearance is one such effort. It is not laziness. It is not avoidance. It is the courageous act of stepping back from the world long enough to meet the figures lurking within. Consider how others respond to your withdrawal. Some will feel betrayed. Some will call you cold, distant, unreliable. But their reactions are less about you than about what your absence awakens in them. Your silence forces them into their own shadows. Your withdrawal shines a light on their dependency, their control, their fear of being alone. To disappear is to become a mirror they cannot escape. But shadow withdrawal is not only for others, it is for you. When you step back, you begin to hear the whispers beneath the noise. You notice the thoughts you were avoiding. You feel the emotions you had numbed. In the silence of disappearance, the shadow stirs. It may come in dreams, in sudden irritations, in old memories that rise uninvited. Do not turn away. This is the work Jung considered essential. Individuation demands that we integrate what we have hidden, not run from it. Know this, your withdrawal will not always be welcomed. Some will push harder to pull you back. They will accuse, cajole, seduce. But remember, every act of withdrawal is a boundary drawn in the soul. It is the declaration that your inner world is not for sale. And though the world may resist, it is in this resistance that your wholeness is forged. In shadow withdrawal, you become less predictable. You no longer dance on command, you no longer explain on demand. This unpredictability unnerves others, but it is also what grants you authority. You are no longer playing the part they wrote for you. You are writing yourself anew. In the next part, you will see disappearance in a new light, not merely as absence, but as initiation, a rite of passage that transforms you into something more whole, more sovereign, more alive. And if you feel the call to step back into your own shadow, to let silence awaken what words have buried, remember that this path is not abandonment, it is initiation. There comes a season when disappearing stops feeling like a tactic and starts feeling like destiny. You sense a pressure beneath your days, a subterranean current that won't be argued with, won't be pacified by small changes or clever explanations. The call is older than your name. You feel it in your bones the way migratory birds feel a direction they have never learned. The body knows before the mind consents. You realize that if you do not withdraw, if you do not cross a threshold and vanish for a time, you will be claimed by roles that were never yours to begin with. This is not collapse. This is consecration. In older cultures, the community understood this need and made room for it. They sent the young into the wild at the hinges of life, into deserts and forests and mountains, a disappearance that did not end them but opened them. You are living in a world that has forgotten ritual, yet the psyche has not forgotten. It still whispers for the journey. Jung saw individuation as a modern rite of passage, the move from borrowed meanings to a center that is your own. To disappear, then, is to be led inward by a guide who speaks in dreams and synchronicities, who closes certain doors so that one door, the right door, can finally be seen. One does not step into this passage clean. The first chamber is always the dark one. Jung called it nigredo, the blackening. Old identities soften and lose their edges. Certainties dissolve like salt in water. This is not a mistake. The chrysalis looks like death to every eye that cannot imagine wings. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, Jung wrote. And in this descent, you meet the parts of you that could only speak once the noise stopped. Grief you postponed, anger that protected a boundary you never knew you had, longings that were too sacred to share in loud rooms. They gather around you in the quiet. They do not demand explanations. They ask to be felt. Then something subtle shifts. After the blackening, a clearing. Albedo, the whitening, brings a merciful breath. It is not ecstasy, but orientation. You begin to sense what remains after the costume falls. You taste a simple relief that comes from not having to perform. A small voice, once thin as a thread, grows a little stronger. It does not shout, it points. You stop bargaining with the old world and begin to listen for instructions from within it. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, Jung warned. Here, in the whitened hush, you discover the difference between fate and calling. When ripening completes, the reddening arrives. Rubedo, the living color. You do not run back to the crowd with dramatic announcements. You carry your change like a quiet ember. Your yes means more now because it costs more to speak it. Your no is gentler and firmer because it is rooted in the self, not in resentment. You notice how much energy you free when you do not explain your soul to those who have not earned access to it. You learn that secrecy is not deception. It is devotion. Those who benefited from your old predictability may test you. They will ask why you left, why you changed, why you no longer offer the same access. Some will clothe that question in concern, some in attack. In initiation language, these are guardians at the gate. Their job is to determine whether you will trade your new center for old approval. You do not need to pass a verbal exam. You pass by remaining, by not reacting, by not explaining, by letting your disappearance be its own answer. This passage is not an argument with the world. It is a covenant with your depths. You begin to see that leaving does not make you loveless, and refusing to explain does not make you cruel. It makes you responsible for the only life you have. It returns you to the only altar that matters, where your attention meets your breath and both bow to something larger than your preferences. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. When you vanish for the sake of awakening, the world loses a performer and gains a person. You do not need to run away to undertake this. You need to stop performing long enough to notice the inner ritual already unfolding. You are not disappearing from life. You are disappearing into it. In the next part, you will learn how to build this initiation into your days. Silent architectures that protect your center without spectacle. Practices that let you disappear on purpose and return with something worth bringing back. Disappearance is not only for great turning points. It is also a practice for every day, a ritual that anchors you in your own soul. Jung knew that the psyche requires periods of retreat, just as the body requires sleep. Without withdrawal, the unconscious floods us in symptoms: anxiety, irritability, exhaustion. With ritual withdrawal, however, the unconscious becomes a wellspring of insight. Imagine carving out a sacred interval in your day, a time when you vanish from the demands of others. You do not announce it. You do not justify it. You simply disappear. No phone, no conversation, no performance, just silence. This is not avoidance, it is medicine. Jung called it active imagination when the inner world was allowed to speak. Withdrawal opens the doorway for that imagination to surface. They may call you distant, withdrawn, uncommunicative, but remember Jung's words. Solitude is for me a fount of healing, which makes my life worth living. Ritual withdrawal is not rejection of others. It is devotion to the self, which paradoxically allows you to return with more authenticity and presence. Of course, society will resist. We live in a world addicted to availability. To step back is to threaten that addiction. But this is precisely why disappearance is sacred. It breaks the spell. It reveals that you are not endlessly accessible. You are not a role, you are a soul. The more you practice these rituals, the stronger your silence becomes. It no longer trembles with fear, it resonates with power. And when the time comes to disappear in greater ways, you will already be fluent in the language of absence. In the next part, you will discover how this disappearance, practiced as ritual, becomes the threshold of return, how you can re-enter the world without apology, without explanation, carrying the quiet authority of one who has met their own soul. And if these words are stirring something in you, remember, each time you choose silence over noise, each time you disappear into your own depths, you are taking one more step toward the self that Jung called the true center of life. Every return tests what the disappearance gave you. The world will ask for a story, a justification, a play-by-play of your silence. You will feel the old pull to soften the edge of your becoming with explanations. This is the last threshold. Cross it, and you will carry your transformation intact. Bow to it, and you will hand it away in pieces. Return like a river emerging from limestone. No fanfare, just a new clarity. Do not advertise, do not defend, do not try to sell your growth to those who have invested in your sameness. Wear your change the way a tree wears rings, visible to the attentive, unnecessary to announce. You will notice quickly who can meet you here. Some will search your face for the version of you they depended on and not find it. Some will feel relieved because the space you took for yourself makes space around them too. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases, Jung wrote. Your return will fit some lives and pinch others. Let it. There will be invitations wrapped as concern. Tell me what happened so I can understand. Translate yourself so I don't have to change. Explain your boundaries so I can keep the same access with new language. Smile and remember your vows. Presence over persuasion, center over performance. If a sentence is necessary, offer one. I needed to go away to become honest. I'm back, but I won't be available in the old ways. I'm here for what's true, not for what's loud. Then let your life corroborate your words. Notice the projections that swarm around a return. Those who fear their own solitude may frame you as cold. Those who equate love with constant availability may declare you unloving. Those who anchor their identity in argument may call your quiet arrogance. Let their stories return to them. You no longer function as a screen. If your silence irritates them now, it is generous to leave it with them. Your presence will make choices for you. Certain rooms will feel smaller. Certain conversations will collapse without your effort to hold them up. Certain obligations will dissolve because their only glue was your fear of being misunderstood. Do not mourn what depended on your self-abandonment to survive. Mourn instead the years you thought you owed them. Then bless those years for teaching you the value of a single hour lived from the center. The return is not a victory parade. It is a calibration. You learn how much to say and when to say nothing. You remain warm without being porous. You offer help without becoming habitat. You let love be specific. Individuation ripens into discernment, where you invest, what you release, whom you keep close, whom you bless from afar. There is no coming to consciousness without pain, Jung reminded us, and there is a small ache in refusing to clean up reactions you did not cause. That ache is a sign of health. It means you are not converting your life into other people's comfort. If you are tempted to apologize for changing, remember the truth that led you into the dark in the first place. You did not disappear to win an argument. You disappeared to stop living against yourself. The world may never applaud that choice, but your nervous system will, your dreams will, your future will. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You have begun to call it by its real name. Some bonds will deepen, they will sense your center and bring more of their own. Conversation will slow down and thicken. Laughter will come from a deeper place. Silence will feel like a friend in the room instead of an emergency. These are the relationships that can hold your return without demanding your explanation. They know that mystery is not a wall, it is a garden fence that keeps what is tender safe enough to grow. Stand here and take inventory without drama. What remains when you stop selling yourself? What grows when you stop narrating? What opens when you stop defending? You do not need to fight for these answers. You only need to refuse the bribes that would make you trade them away. If you hold, the path that opened in your disappearance will remain open in your days. And now the spiral shows itself. You will leave again, and you will return again, each cycle less about escape and more about fidelity. You will react less. You will explain less. You will disappear more precisely for shorter and truer seasons because you know where you're going when you go. You carry your center with you the way a flame carries its own heat. You have walked through silence. You have practiced vanishing. You have tasted the power of non-explanation. And now you have glimpsed the mystery of returning without apology. These are not tricks of behavior. They are thresholds of the soul. Each silence is an initiation. Each disappearance is a death. Each return is a rebirth. The world will not always understand. Some will resist your silence. Some will fear your withdrawal. Some will demand your explanations, but none of that matters. What matters is that you are learning to live from the self, the deep center that Jung called the true axis of life. You do not need to react. You do not need to explain. You do not need to be endlessly available. You are allowed to disappear. You are allowed to return. And in this rhythm of vanishing and re-emerging, you are becoming who you truly are. Type "disappear" in the comments if you are ready to step into this discipline of silence, if you are ready to vanish without apology and re-enter the world with sovereign presence. And know this: the next video completes this journey. In it, we will enter the deepest chamber of Jung's vision, where disappearance becomes not only survival, not only initiation, but the path to true freedom. Don't miss it.